The reason you can't lose weight normally comes down to a few different reasons, right? Because if you're doing everything you should be, the reality is you will lose weight. And most people aren't doing everything they should be, which is why they're not actually able to lose weight over a sustained period of time. Because the reality is, if you're doing everything you should be, which you're probably not, which is why you're struggling to lose weight, then this video is for you. Because the majority of people, they struggle to lose weight because of a few things. If your calories are more than you are burning, there you go. First of all, you're going to struggle. And just because you're eating healthy, that doesn't mean you're going to lose weight, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, I've been eating healthy. I've been eating healthy. Why haven't I been losing weight? And just because you've been eating healthy, that doesn't automatically mean that you're going to lose weight. Because if you're still eating, if you're consuming more than you're burning, you're still probably going to put on weight or maybe just maintain your weight, right? So doesn't matter if you're just eating healthy. That's not going to help you lose weight, right? Someone who just ate takeaways all day and they made sure they was in a calorie deficit would actually probably lose weight compared to someone who was just eating only healthy food but was actually consuming more than he was burning, right? So you need to make sure you're in a calorie deficit. And if you think you're in a calorie deficit, but you're still not losing weight, then you're probably not in a calorie deficit, right? So you need to track your food as the first thing. You have to track your food. You need to track your food because otherwise you're probably consuming more than you actually think. Because especially depending on what you're eating, if you're eating healthy whole foods, right? There's actually a lot less calories in them and they have more volume. Whereas if you're just eating some goofy stuff, right, and you're eating, maybe you're going to McDonald's because you're at work and you're on a late night shift or something, and you need to get something quick, right? A lot of that processed food has a lot of calories in, right? So if you're eating that, it has a lot of calories, so you're going to probably be over more than you should be eating. So you need to watch what you're eating, but you need to track it too. Because if you're not tracking your food, that's already step one. You're probably already cooked and you're probably already going over your maintenance or eating at maintenance, which is why you're struggling to lose weight. Yeah, you need to make sure you're eating 3 to 500 below maintenance, right? And then if you're eating 3 to 500 below maintenance, and then you should lose weight at that pretty steadily. And then if you stall, add some more steps in. You stall again, you can add some more steps in. And then obviously if you've increased cardio to a point where doing any more would be unrealistic for you, then what you do is you just drop your calories by 100, you know, and then run that, and then you should start to lose weight again. But the reality is, like I said, if you're doing everything you're supposed to do, you should be losing weight. But most people aren't actually tracking their calories. So I've seen a lot of people, they just go, nah, I just eyeball it, which you can do only after a sort of certain amount of time, after you've tracked your calories for a while. And if you're eating the same thing day in, day out, which I would recommend if you're trying to get lean, I would recommend eating the same thing day in, day out. Then you can think about eyeballing your food because it becomes a bit easier because you already know roughly how much you need, right? But even still, if you have a scale, it takes 30 seconds just to put your food on the scale and weigh it. So if you have a scale, you don't need to be eyeballing your food, even if you know approximate amounts or how much to put of that. You can still weigh it. It does not take long. Stop being lazy, right? So weigh your food, track it, know how much you're getting, make sure you're hitting your macros, right? Because like I said, if you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, you should be losing weight. And if you're not losing weight, you're doing something wrong, right? And another thing as well is stop just relying on the scale. So just because the scale hasn't moved doesn't mean you haven't lost any fat. Because sometimes, especially maybe if you're quite a new lifter, you can find that you'll actually be recomping. So you'll be losing a bit of fat whilst building a little bit of muscle. Right. So just because the scale hasn't moved doesn't mean you haven't lost any weight. Right. And you'll find as well when you first start trying to lose weight, you'll probably find the weight will just fall off because normally people are holding a lot of glycogen, a lot of water. So you'll have a lot of water retention when you first start trying to lose weight. So you'll find that the weight will just fall off very quick in the first few weeks. And then once you've, dropped all that water weight, you then find it starts to slow down because now you're actually getting into the fat, right? So it is a slow process and it does take time. But once you actually understand that it's something that takes time and it doesn't happen overnight, you know, then you learn to be okay with that, right? Because another thing as well is people why a lot of people struggle to lose weight is because they don't stick to it for long enough. So they think it's not working, but it actually is. They just haven't given it enough time. You need to give it time. Like you need some patience because like I've said before in many other videos is when it comes to this fitness journey, you need patience. If you're too impatient and you just I want the results now, I want the results now, you know, it's not gonna happen for you. You're already cooked. Yeah, if you think that you can just wake up one day and you can have abs, you're cooked. Yeah, you need to realize that it's gonna take some time, and you just need to be okay with that, and you just need to stick it out long enough and be like, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna stick this out no matter how long it takes, and you what you have to do as well is you have to change variables. So there's a lot of online calculators you can do, and you can put in your calories. Sorry, you can put in your height, your weight, your age, etc., with your male, female, and then it will calculate your maintenance. And a lot of these online calculators will tell you how many calories you can consume in order to lose weight. Right? So you need to do one of them and you need to follow it because and sometimes it does take a bit of trial and error. So these calculators, they might not always be 100% accurate, which is why you need a bit of trial and error, especially when you're first starting. So you can try the calculator. If it tells you that you need to consume, I don't know, 1800 calories to lose a pound and a half of fat a week, you follow that. And then if the scale is not moving, you can maybe change a variable. You can decrease your calories by 100 or maybe add another 2 to 3K steps in a day, right? So you can change variables to find out your sweet spot that enables you to lose a pound to a pound and a half a week. Because I wouldn't recommend trying to lose 2 pound a week plus, because that becomes a very aggressive, and you don't want to lose fat too aggressively because a lot of people don't realize that they have a lot less muscle mass than they actually realize because they have so much fat on them that they haven't actually got that much muscle mass. It's just the fact that they're really fat, which they think, oh yeah, I'm quite big, I've got quite a lot of muscle. When the reality is, when you strip that fat off, you probably haven't actually got that much muscle, especially if you've been lifting naturally your whole life. You probably haven't actually got that much muscle. So you you need to realize that yes, you might start looking a bit flat and a bit small when you start cutting, but that's normal, right? Once you reverse diet, yeah, you'll start to look a lot more fuller. Your muscles will be, they'll look a lot better because you start increasing carbs and things like this, and you'll start increasing calories, so you'll look a lot more filled out than when you're in the process of cutting, or once you get near towards the end of your cut, you might look quite a bit flat, but that's normal, right? And like I said, once you reverse diet and you come out of that, you'll look 10 times better. So don't worry about looking small or feeling skinny, because I had that issue as well when I was cutting, and I kept looking in the mirror thinking like, bruv, I look so small. I look so small. I look so flat. But that's just part of the process. You just got to endure it, because when you're a natural lifter, building muscle takes time. It takes a lot more time building muscle than it does cutting as well. So you just have to understand that building muscle takes time. It's going to be a process. Ignore people like, if they start calling you skinny, or you're just, they're calling you, oh, you look like you're too small and all this, Again, hate always comes from below, so just ignore it and just keep doing your thing. Um, like I said, if you find that you look a bit flat and you look a bit small, don't worry. Just stick out your cut until the very end. And then once you get to the body fat percentage you want to be, like I said, then you reverse diet, you start increasing your calories, you'll start looking a lot more full, you'll start looking a lot better, you'll start looking filled out. So yeah, you just, at the end of the day, you just have to stick to it. You have to stick to it. You have to stick to a plan, find a plan and stick to it. So that's all I've really got for today. But stay locked in.